Hey, what's up, folks? How we doing tonight? I'm at Sports Talking It. I know normally we do the open mic, and I don't know why that's back there. Um, shit. Anyway, hey, we're gonna talk some ball tonight. We got a good little crew with us tonight. Sorry. Anyway, we'll just put a stadium back there. Anyway, I'm gonna bring in Rich first. How you doing tonight, Rich?
What's going on, man?
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that screen was back there. Sorry. Oh man. All right. Next, we're gonna bring in Mark. What's up, Mark?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, good,
Hey, Mark.
good. I'm gonna give you your 10 minutes that you can go off on your Buckeyes win the championship.
Thank you.
Because I know, yeah, I know that was something you really wanted to talk about in the text. So I'll give you a little bit to go off on it. Next, we're gonna bring in Chase. What's up, buddy?
How we doing? Good to be back.
Good.
Been a
Yes,
while.
sir. All right, shall we let Mark go first?
You guys go for you know what? Hey, the Buckeyes ran the gauntlet there, but it was entertaining. I don't know what you guys thought of the 12-team playoff, but the story of it is I was in Italy during the championship game, and I had to sit while my wife went to bed. I sat in the desk chair with my head back, dozed off, set the alarm for 1:25 a.m. The game was not on TV, so I had to listen to Paul Keels on the Buckeye radio network from 1:30 in the morning till 5 a.m. So that was quite entertaining. And, you know, as the plays kept happening, I kept pumping my fist and the bed shaking. My wife would wake up, knock the remote over. It broke into about 3 pieces on the floor. I mean, she was not having a good sleeping experience over there. So I did smoke my victory cigar before the game because I kind of anticipated a Buckeye win.
That is loyalty, folks, right there.
Confidence.
Yeah. Well,
So, Mark, I'm just curious, how much good food? You said you were over there for a food event. So, how much did you get to eat of good food?
well, I got to tell you, I don't think I'm allowed any carbs for about the next 3.5 years because the show is pizza, gelato, pastries, bread, and there was 200,000 people there. So we were in Bologna. So while you're over there, you had to have a little bolognese, and so yeah, plenty of pizza, plenty of pasta, and plenty of stogies. So it was good stuff.
My son is listening tonight. As you see, he's leaving comments. He's with you, Mark. He's a Buckeyes fan. And
It's really tough to beat good bolognese, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we were spoiled over there. I can tell you that. Just amazing. As good as pizza we have around here, the pizza's a lot different. The pasta's a lot different, but I'll tell you, just and the wine, terrific. Just the whole experience in Italy is just, if you haven't done it, do it, please.
so, Mark, I'm just curious. You're talking about pizza. I know when my sister was in Scotland, they said an American pizza put hot dogs on it. And she's like, we don't put hot dogs on our pizza.
No.
I'm just curious. Did you see any weird trends over in Italy when you were there?
No, I didn't. I'll send you some pictures. I took a bunch of pictures, but no, really not a whole lot. Just you know, the show itself, there was 1,300 booths, and this thing was just mammoth. And some of the booths, believe it or not, like you go to the food shows around here, you got pipe and drapes. Well, those ones over there, a lot of those people spent 200,000 euros to build their booth. And after I was done with one of the meetings, the guy says, "Hey, you want to go up? You know, I'll get you a drink in the VIP lounge." I said, "Where's the VIP lounge?" He says, "Upstairs." I says, "Upstairs where?" He says, "Upstairs in my booth." And I looked over there. There was a spiral staircase going upstairs to a bar in his booth. So, I mean, it was just a kind of just a head shaker over there, just the way I've never seen anything like it.
My daughter is in the Air Force and is stationed in Italy. And she's had a chance to go check out a lot of really cool stuff while she's been there. She's been there about 6 months now, and she's on a 2-year assignment, or 2-year deployment, I guess is the proper terminology.
Got to go visit.
Yeah, I would love to. My wife, I'm sure, is going to go at some point. I'm still doing the wheelchair/scooter thing.
Yeah.
And I would just be in the way trying to keep those two from running around.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the culture over there is a lot different. The plane ride wasn't, you got to endure the because getting back was 23 hours, so that wasn't fun, but it was worth the experience.
So, have any of you guys had a chance to look over any of your projections for baseball? Anyone? Anything?
Oh,
Anyone notice anything? Anything in particular you looked at? Anything?
There's always weird stuff in the projections, Adam. You got to be a little more specific there, bro.
I was just asking, whenever I was looking it over, I was talking to Rich earlier. I said, I think the Cubs are the only team with 3 left-handed starters in the rotation. The Mets and the Yankees are one of the few teams running on a 6-man rotation. Rich brought it up to me that the Dodgers will probably run on a six-man rotation as well. I just found that to be awkward, especially in New York.
I see on MLB.com anyway. Now, take this for what it's worth. They're showing the Red Sox carrying a 6-man rotation.
Unless they updated it. I didn't see that earlier.
Crochet, Houck, Bayo, Ferris, Giolito, and Crawford. Of course, Ferris being Bueller.
Oh, yeah. And only one left-handed pitcher.
Right there at the top, yeah.
All right, Brandon, what's going on with the Brewers? Besides passing.
Besides being their first year without Euchre here, I mean, I don't know. I think it's another year they're perpetually underrated coming into the year, and then they perpetually overperform. I'm a little, like everybody else as a Brewer fan, I'm a little disappointed in the seeming lack of urgency to add anybody this offseason. I mean, it seems like all they did was subtract, and they haven't really brought anybody else in. Now, the Adames signing with San Francisco, that was a given. Everybody knew that he wasn't going to be coming back. There were some diehard hopefuls that thought we might break the piggy bank open for him, but that's just not the way the Brewers do things. So I think we knew he was out the door, but they haven't really brought anybody in to replace him. They made the Williams trade, which again, I think was a unnecessary move. They didn't get a ton out of him last year anyway. I mean, he was great when he played, but he was hurt half the season. They are one of those teams that always seems to be able to find pieces for the bullpen. They're great at these reclamation projects. A guy who was maybe good 2-3 years ago and maybe has been pitching overseas for a year or was on somebody's IL all season, and that they bring him in, and heck, they toss him out there for 54 games and he comes away with a 3.02 ERA and has a really good year for him. They're really good at finding those guys. So I'm not worried about losing Williams. But when you're replacing Devin Williams and Willie Adames with Nestor Cortez and Caleb Durbin, who both came back in that Williams trade, I'm just not so sure that I'm not sure that they're better this season than they were opening last year. They will get Brandon Woodruff back at some point this year, but it looks like he may not be available for the beginning of the year. That's going to be an issue. That's going to hurt a little bit there. In all, I mean, I think picking them to finish 10 games behind the Cubs, as the PECOTA, rankings have them right now, I think that's maybe a little optimistic in Chicagoland. Chicago they were aggressive. They were aggressive adding people this offseason, but you also still have to put it all together on the field, and I'm not necessarily sure how all their pieces fit always. So, I mean, I'm still optimistic that they'll challenge, that they'll be in it. I think that they'll finish better than 81 and 81. They seem to have the kind of organization that can find those wins from guys that other pundits, the talking heads like us, don't necessarily always see where those wins are coming from, and they seem to pull them out. So I think they'll be above 500. I think they'll challenge for the playoffs again. I think they'll be right in the mix until September there. Cubs probably are rightfully the favorites in the division based on the offseason that they had, but hey, I'm going to roll with my team. I'm going to ride with them. I'm not giving up on them until I have to give up on them, until Packers season kicks off.
Do you think that they feel Terang's going to be the everyday shortstop now?
That's one of the big questions right now with this team. I don't think they necessarily know yet who is going to play from second all the way over to third. I mean, the likely projections, the projections that they show on MLB.com today with their new article was out. They have Joey Ortiz sliding over from third to short. And he has played there. That's where he came up. That was his position. That was also Turang's position coming up. But you're talking about taking a guy who was the platinum glove winner at second base off of second base to plug him in at shortstop now. I'm not so sure I like the idea of that. I like Turang at second. I think he runs really well at second. I'd like to see them try Ortiz at shortstop, run with him. The problem with that is then you leave yourself with some combination of Caleb Durbin, who is all of 5'0" and a brand new guy to your organization. Andrew Monasterio, who is no one's idea of a starting third baseman, and Oliver Dunn again. Some combination of the three of those guys running at third base. I would love to see them bring somebody in to actually play that position. I'm not pie in the sky enough to think it couldn't be Alex Bregman. They're not going to throw that kind of money around. It's going to take $100 million plus, over 4 or 5 years to get him in there at the least. And they're not going to throw a contract like that around. But I think if it were me, I'd leave Turang at second, but Ortiz, I'd like to see Ortiz at shortstop, but that third base is just going to be kind of a dead spot in the roster until they bring somebody in, or until Tyler Black, one of their top prospects, shows that he warrants that top prospect status.
MLB.com is saying Durbin's going to be your second baseman.
Did they flip that now? Yeah,
they have.
There was some more talk thrown around today, even on a couple other sites that I saw too, that was talking about Turang going to shortstop, and I guess we'll find out when they hit the field there in Arizona in the next week here. So
He seemed to be getting it towards the end of the year because he was a heavy fantasy favorite for down the stretch, and he was cheap. I think that's why, but he was coming through.
He had a real nice season for him last year. He had been talked up. Pat Murphy, the manager of the year, I might add, was really talking him up in the preseason and saying that he thought Turang's bat was going to surprise a lot of people. I think they knew that they had a good glove with him. I don't know that they necessarily thought he was platinum glove level, but they knew they had a good glove in him. His bat played well. He had a little bit slower second half maybe than we would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen him carry that same level all the way through. But he definitely looks like an all-star caliber type player that can play there for a while. He came up as a shortstop. I'm not worried as long as he's in the middle of the infield somewhere. Like I said, I still think that they are one guy short somewhere in that infield to plug in. But bringing Rhys Hoskins back, and they didn't bring him back. He brought himself back by signing his player option. That really hamstrung him with what they were able to do this season for added additions and roster flexibility. So unless and until they can clear that out of the way, we may be kind of stuck with who we have right now on the 40-man.
You're okay with Hoskins, all right?
I'm sure he's a good dude. His mother loves him, but we didn't get the production out of him that I think that we all were hoping for last season. We definitely weren't getting like early career Rhys Hoskins production out of him. I think there's better ways to spend $18.5 million personally. So
for a 212 hitter.
Yeah, right. Therein lies the rub, as I say on my show all the time. Yep.
Right. Well, the one thing about it, though, is, and I don't think anybody will deny this, the NL Central is wide open.
Yes.
Even when you look at the moves the Cubs made, the only team that I see as a conceivable non-contender, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, is the Cardinals.
The team that finished second last year. Yeah.
But I mean, you look at that lineup right now. I was looking at it just a second ago. Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson, Wilson Contreras, Nolan Gorman, Ivan Herrera, Brendan Donovan, Jordan Walker, Lars Nootbaar, and Michael Ciani.
I think
That's
Jordan
your
Walker's been a
lineup.
disappointment on that in that
He has been.
organization so far.
He definitely has been.
I
And
mean-
there's no guarantee that Arenado is even in that lineup on opening day still. I mean, they're still actively trying to get
They don't have
rhythm.
him on here for what MLB.com has. They've got Nolan Gorman at third.
Yeah, they don't. I
And
just
the
saw he
clean-
was
and
on.
the cleanup hitter.
I just saw the Padres were looking at Arenado. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's weird. They don't really necessarily need that, but if they want to pay him, that's what they like to do is throw money around in San Diego. If they want to take that contract, I'm sure St. Louis will jump at it.
Yeah, what are you going to do with the guys they've got? What are you going to do? Put Machado at first? You know, I mean,
Who knows?
turned into a pretty decent first baseman, by the way.
Who knows? Mark, just curious, have you had a chance to even glance at your former team?
Just a little bit. I mean, I was disappointed with their off season, to be honest with you. But I don't think a lot of people are buying what they sold last year because, looking at some of the predictions, a lot of people have them third place behind the Royals and Twins. But it's not excited whatsoever about some of the moves, and the pitching is going to be a big factor here, and they really didn't do a whole lot. They got Lively, Bibby's there, obviously. I don't know what Bieber, when his projected return would be, but there's a lot of question marks there. McKenzie, what's he going to do? He flopped last year in his comeback bid, but there'll be a lot of question marks. No question, but they've got talent. There's no question about John Kenzie Noel. I think they're going to give him more of a look in the outfield. But yeah, just some of the moves they made in the offseason.
Somewhat. I know we talked about the trade, but would have you rather them kept Spencer than bringing in Carlos again?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I've seen enough of Santana. I mean, this is like the 28th time we've had him on the roster. I don't know. He's played for the last 43 years, it seems. So, not sure there's a lot of benefit there, but at first you're going to see Manzardo at first. The pitching is the big concern. We got away with it in the playoffs. You get some of these starters pitching 2-3 innings, then you go to the bullpen. But it's a long season, and I just don't see a lot of depth in that starting unit.
I believe you said that you were kind of like well, you weren't understanding the whole trade at first, but then you seen that they threw him to Pittsburgh for Ortiz, and you were kind of okay with that whenever we were talked about it before, but that was like fresh. I didn't know if that had a chance to set in.
Yeah, watching Ortiz here in Pittsburgh last year, I thought he did a pretty decent job. Can he do it again this year? And so they took the pieces of what they acquired and turned that into another starting pitcher. But Ortiz again was a bullpen guy, right? Before they moved him into the
MLB.com showing him as your number 2 starter.
Number 2, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to like the Pirates. I mean, you look at what they've got. They're top 3 in the rotation. There's no reason why they shouldn't be in the mix for the division. I just don't get it, and really no excitement around here, as you know.
I believe me, I know. Hey, are we gonna try and go to one of them April games?
Too cold.
Freeze your ass off.
I'm not freezing my ass off for anything.
I just saying the Guardians are here in April.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's the 20th, 19th.
Yeah, we could look at that. Absolutely.
Mark, how did you feel when they brought Lane Thomas in, and then what you ended up getting out of him? I mean, what's he going to look like this season? That's one thing I'm wondering about with that.
That's another one of the question marks. But I was excited. I mean, the guy, he wasn't having a great season in Washington, but he when they plugged him in, I think a a fresh look, fresh start. Thought he gave us
that big playoff game.
Yeah, that I mean, that was one of the most exciting moments that I've seen in Indians/Guardians baseball history. I was watching that the other night on Twitter, just the center field cam of when he hit that and when it finally landed. But yeah, I mean, what they've done over the years is they've looked at, I don't want to say projects, but they've looked at trying to catch lightning in a bottle. And I think
Right.
a lot of the small market, teams have to do that time to time. As they build through the system, you still have to find some of those, deals where Elaine Thomas will come in. I think he'll be productive at the plate. There's just, it's just, I worry about that pitching staff. That's the only thing. I think they've got plenty of talent, out in the field, but I just worry about the starting rotation.
From what I'm seeing with the Guardians, it seems like there's two big names, and you mentioned one of them earlier, that need to have a bounce back year. One of them, Tristan McKenzie. I was a fan of his, and he just completely went full blown Alek Manoah and screwed the pooch last season. But the other one's Stephen Kwan, because 2 years ago, Kwan was looking like he was going to be that upper echelon leadoff hitter, really good production, that kind of stuff. Last year, he kind of, struggled. And
he got sent
you
down.
got to have
Didn't
your
he, at some
leadoff
point?
guy.
Great
to
first
Columbus
half of the year too, to the All-Star break, and then he fell off, and then he came back on in the postseason.
Yeah, but it just seems like, if you're going to have Kwan in that leadoff spot, which I'm assuming that's what they're looking at, he's got to get back to that 2023 Stephen Kwan, not 2024.
Yeah. Well, there's the, and he really, when I don't know what they did when he sat out there. I don't know if it was, he was injured, but kind of gave him time to gather his, space between the ears, and he came back and with a vengeance, and he was on a tear in the postseason. But yeah, you're right. He needs to, be consistent. He had a great first half, not a very good second half at all. And, it was kind of painful watching Naylor in the playoffs too, just out of shape, overweight, and just fishing, time after time at the plate. But yeah, they'll live and die with that rotation. Like, I don't know. Did they say when Bieber is going to be back? Is he? I didn't hear if
he's looking at June or July. I mean, it's going to be All-Star break or so, right around then. I think time he gets back, and that's unfortunate because you could really use him.
I was excited to see they created that Cleveland Guardians TV deal. Now I can watch the games over here this year. Did you see that? 99, I think it was $99 for the year or for the season.
They're not going to block us out.
No blackout.
Yeah, it's a similar thing to what the Rangers did.
I did not see that. My bad.
Came out today.
Oh,
that's
no,
awesome.
Then that's probably why I didn't see it.
If they'd offer that, I think I pay about $876,000 a month for a cable package or a satellite package that was supposed to include all of the Brewer games and that. But I live like a stone's throw away from the Minnesota border, so all we ever get is Twin stuff, and I'm like, oh, great. Yeah,
I tried that too with the NBA with the Cavaliers, and same thing happened, but I had to go to FanDuel and so get to watch the Cavs. But I'll do the same with the Guardians.
You're better off getting a T-Mobile phone then and getting free MLB.
Yeah, but then you got to deal with T-Mobile.
Isn't that who the package is through? Isn't that MLB have?
I think that's it. Yeah, I think you're right.
I did enjoy it. One of my buddies lived in Atlanta. He's like, my dad can't use it. You want it? And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm not gonna pass it up. I mean, if you're throwing it my way, yeah. He's never come on a show though. He's never come on, and I don't know why. But he's a Vikings fan. Maybe that's why. But he lives in Atlanta. I don't know. Does anyone want to talk about Pirates?
Is Brian Hayes actually going to play like everybody?
They're saying
waiting for Brian Hayes to play.
They're saying he's in the projected lineup, batting eighth. Do you see that, Rich?
He's been that dude for the last couple seasons. It's like, this is the year. This is the year, and it's never the year.
No, it's his back every year. He's awful.
No. It's not that he's awful. He's hurt.
And that's
the absolute worst. The absolute worst injury for a baseball player is a back injury.
Yep.
Because you're twisting and turning. Yeah, Christian Yelich is another one. Except he's kind of fought through it. He's not playing the field as much as he used to. But
either way, like you said, the twisting, the rotational force in throwing or in batting, even in base running, the
bending, the sliding, So you've got all that torque on your back, and the guy is just straight hurt, and he's not the toughest guy in town. You would almost figure being in Pittsburgh, it would toughen him up a little bit. But
you make that kind of money, you could be like Dak Prescott, not play.
But I mean, no, third base is going to be Jared Triolo's to lose. I'm a firm believer in that. Unless he just absolutely spits the bit, I think we're going to see him starting at third base opening day.
Better see a better Swinsky this year, that's for sure.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why the Pirates brought in Tommy Pham. Because you got to have somebody. Adam and I were talking about this on our show last week. When you sit there and you really look at the starting lineup for this Pirates team, 7 of the 8 position players are in pretty good shape. Right field is a huge gaping hole. Your entire infield is, solid. Your catching is going to be fine. Left field with Reynolds, right field with O'Neal Cruz, no sweat. Right field has a big question mark emblazoned in the grass out there. It could be any one of like half a dozen guys. You want it to be Sawinski, but you can't. He wasn't hitting his weight last year for a large chunk of the season. And you can't have that, especially when you really have nobody on this team that's going to be a 300 hitter hitting 35, 40 bombs and driving in 100.5. Everybody has got to be consistent. I think it's going to be right fielder by committee. Play the hot hand. Unless somebody just reaches out and takes it. You never know. Spring training, you never know what could happen. Somebody could get super hot, hit 500 in spring training. Okay, go for it. Maybe Josh Palacios or somebody like that.
Yeah, I was at the game when Henry Davis made his debut, and people were excited. That guy has fallen off the face of the earth, hasn't he?
I was at that game.
Yeah,
were you?
Yeah, I was sitting in the very last row up in 300, right next to the press box.
Yeah,
we were on the fence.
He's
actually, we were sitting on the fence. But with cameras, it made it look like we were right there, though.
Yeah. I don't think Davis hit his weight either. And Adam even brought up the thing about putting Davis in right. Okay. But again, he's got to hit. And that's one thing with this lineup. They've got guys that can hit. Reynolds can hit. Even if Kutch, hey, if I can get 270 out of Kutch, I'm happy. If I can get 260, 270 out of Kutch, I'm happy. Reynolds can hit, Cruz can hit, Bart can hit, Gonzalez can hit, Izzy can hit. Horwitz can even hit. He's not going to hit for power, but he can hit. It's just that right field spot that right field and middle relief concerns the heck out of me on that team. It really does.
Bednar, I don't know. What are your thoughts on? He really struggled last year.
I think he comes back strong this year, and I think Holderman is your 8th inning guy. he showed a lot last year pitching the 7th and sometimes the 8th inning. So I think Holderman is going to end up being your 8th inning guy. It's just a matter of getting from some of those starters to the 8th inning guy. Skeens can get you 7 every night. No questions asked. He can do that. Keller can get you 7 every night. He's done it and he's proven it. Jones can get you 6. Can he get you 7 every night? Yeah, he can get you 6. If Oviedo and Falter can get you 5 or 6, that's fine.
All right.
But you got to get from 5 or 6 to 8.
I still think Bubba and Harrington are going to be 4 and 5.
I think Bubba is going to be the 4 and Oviedo is going to be long relief, which is good. I was a Falter guy when he was in Philly. I really like the way he pitches. A, he's a lefty. B, and that motion. The way he just doesn't throw like a standard lefty. He has a little bit of a funk to his motion, which can be deceptive to hitters. Those 3 things, I could see Falter winning 12 games this year.
Now, Brandon, Chase, have you broke down any of your roster breakdown so far or anything?
What, for Milwaukee or for Pittsburgh?
Milwaukee. Well, I mean, you do it all. I'm sure you do it all because are you doing fantasy baseball on your show now?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Actually, I just started. We just released launched the fantasy baseball wing of the network of Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We just launched Fantasy Baseball Advice Network a couple weeks ago. You'll find me on there. I've just got a brand new show, straight to the chase, all about fantasy baseball. So far, we've talked about pitchers coming back from injury that you got to watch this year. Pitchers who are due for innings increases you got to watch for this year. We just did I just did my fantasy second base preview, and I'm actually going to be taping my fantasy catcher preview right after we get off the air here tonight. But yeah, I love the Pirates' top 3 of the rotation. I wish the Brewers had a top 3 of the rotation like that. We used to, and then life happened with everything. The Brewer budget happened with part of it. But yeah, between Skeens, Keller, and Jones, I think that's a solid 3 that could take them real far if that offense proves that it can score any runs at all. They may not have to score any runs the first 3 days of the week, but they're going to have to score runs, last 2 days of the week, it looks like. And that's the only thing that worries me about Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh should finish ahead of St. Louis. I think they honestly should finish ahead of Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati tried to be aggressive in doing some ads this.
I like Cincinnati signing a Terry Francona.
I think that's their best ad that they made.
Yeah,
to be that honest with you, but you still can only work with the materials that you have, and I'm still not sure they have quite enough there yet. Everybody was excited last year. Oh, they've got so much talent, and then they went and did what they did or what they didn't do, to be more accurate. But as far as Milwaukee goes, yeah, I mean, Peralta at the top of the rotation doesn't excite me because Freddie Peralta is much more a 2 or 3 starter, number 2 or 3 rather than an ace. I mean, he was 8th in the league in strikeout rate last season, which is nice. But if you're throwing a ton of strikeouts, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're throwing deep into games. And that's actually a positive for the Brewers because, like I said, they've done so well finding bullpen pieces. They just seem to put together a lot, but I wish they had like one more arm and one more bat. And I would feel really solid about this team keeping pace with the Cubs. When Woodruff gets back, he'll be a nice addition to the starting rotation again. Doesn't look like he might be ready quite at the beginning of the season, but that'll give him a nice 1-2 punch up there. But then now you're hoping that Tobias Myers continues to take a step forward. You're hoping that you get good nasty Nestor Cortez out of that trade with the Yankees. You're hoping that whoever you pick for your 5th starter, whether it's Aaron Ashby, whether it's DL Hall, who came over in the Burns trade, whether it's, whomever, Jacob Mizorowski from the preseason, from the minors, whoever you plug into that 5th spot, you're hoping that guy takes a step forward. There's a lot of hoping and wishing right now going on where I would rather see at least some answered questions. And then, like I said, I worry about that infield. I love the 5 outfielders the Brewers are going to run out there. I'm not worried about the 5 outfielders between Churio, Mitchell, Gold Glover, Frelick, and Yelich when he's available to play the field. Perkins is a stud of a defensive player out there in the outfield. I love the 5 outfielders they've got put together. Their infield is just such a mishmash right now. And really the only sure thing that I see in that infield right now is Bryce Turing. So, I mean, they've got the best catcher in baseball, or at least the best statistical catcher right now in baseball. That's a nice problem to have, not have to worry about that for once. Problem is they're also deep. They're kind of deep there in their minor league system too. And so the riches don't pile up where you want them. They pile up where they pile up. So.
But you build up the middle, and you've got the best, like you said, one of, if not the best catchers in baseball. Whether he's at second or short, or you got Turang.
Yes.
And then in center field, I like Garrett Mitchell. I think he's a solid ball player. So 3 of your 4 spots up the middle are pretty solid. That other spot may have a question mark to it, but at least you have 3 of those 4 centerpieces.
And I would feel good about. I would feel fine with Ortiz if he slides over and takes that shortstop position. I would feel real good, like you said, about that 4 up the middle. But again, that leaves us real vulnerable. That leaves us with, like you said, the 212 hitter at first base and a hole at third base. And so two of your main power sources on a roster, at least traditional power sources on a roster, are kind of holes in the lineup. Hoskins will hit 20 or so, but I'm not thrilled with that part of the offense.
What are the Brewers going to do for Euchre during the season? They're going to put his number on the sleeves or anything? Or
so they just released a day or two ago. They released an image. They're going to have a patch. They're going to permanent jersey patch. Well, permanent for this season. There's a lot of scuttle with the fans about making it a permanent patch, similar to some things that other teams have done for owners or high profile members of their teams. But they are going to have a jersey patch on the sleeve, his signature against a plaid background to kind of pay homage to the sport coats he used to wear in the 70s and early 80s. And it's really nice. It's tasteful. It's classy, which I'm sure he would get a kick out of. But they are going to do that. That'll be the ongoing tribute during the season. They did also announce with that announcement that they will be having some kind of public celebration, of life, and they're going to announce details on that forthcoming. A lot of people are hoping they make the jersey patch available as its own entity rather than just attached to merchandise. But yeah, they will be doing certain things all year long. Like I said, he'll always be a part of the fabric of that team. His home run call, get up, get out of here, gone, is literally built into the stadium behind Bernie Brewer's slide, where he goes down every time they hit a home run. And they light it up. It says, get up, get out of here, gone. So, I mean, they'll keep that. I'm sure they'll do that. There's been talk of, possibly playing his home run call over the loudspeaker when the Brewers do hit a home run and that kind of thing, which I think would be an easy and nice tribute as well. It'll be different. It'll be different. It'll be hard. It'll be hard for a lot of people. I mean, when you're that big a part of the fabric of the team and the state, I mean, he did a lot of work with the state tourism board and advertisers for all over the state. It'll be hard without him. 54 years. I'm 46 now. He's the only voice of the team I ever knew. Some of my earliest memories, family memories, are Brewer baseball on the radio and dad and mom and my little brother and trips in the car and that kind of thing. So it'll be a different experience this season. It definitely will be a different experience, but they'll do things to honor him. And I'm looking forward to that. I'd like to get down to a game or two. If and when they do have things planned. I would really like to get down there. It's about a 5-hour drive for me, but I can make a 5-hour drive for that kind of fun. So
nobody fills his shoes, but who's taking his place in the booth?
That's what I was just ready to ask, Mark. Me and you were thinking the same thing. Yeah. I was like, who's filling the shoes?
Well, the thing about it is he had really stepped back here in the last several seasons. He was only doing, for the most part, home games anyway. And even the last couple of years, he was basically doing the home games that he chose to come to. So they'll still have their same 3-man booth that they've had for the most part for the last several seasons. But it will be hard. That iconic home run call that Brewers fans love, so much. When it came out that his last home run call was a grand slam for Jackson Chourio, the 20-year-old, new phenom there. So the 90-year-old guy calling the 20-year-old's home run. And that ended up being his last home run call on Brewers radio. It was kind of a neat deal, but we've gotten used to, unfortunately, we've had to get used to not hearing him as much on the radio the last several seasons.
Yeah. And I think anybody outside of Milwaukee, they're going to miss the major league quotes and his outtakes from the movie. So, those are classic. I think that movie's on like every other day year round.
You're right. Yeah. Oh, hey, TBS, look what's on. Awesome. Yeah. One of the things about that, everybody of course remembers the famous, from the first Major League movie, Just a Bit Outside. To me, the thing that really makes that moment in the movie, though, is what he follows it up with, because it's not just it's just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed, and it's almost like a little throwaway line, but it was such a perfect line because he's being a baseball announcer in that moment. Yeah. In the movie, nobody listening to him on the radio in that movie, in the world of the movie, has any idea how far outside that pitch was. That the pitch was, hit the backstop on the fly. None of them know that. For all they know, it was just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed, and that's something he has said that that's something that's a natural thing for a baseball announcer to say if he had tried the corner and just missed it. To me, that little add-on at the end when he tried the corner and missed, just to me, that's what makes the moment in that movie. So
didn't he down a shot of bourbon after that? After that one?
He's pouring drinks during that. Yeah. Such
my favorite is Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason.
Yep. Leads the league in nose hair when Clu Haywood comes up.
Yeah.
Clu Haywood, former Brewer pitcher, actually. Vukovich. Yeah. Good stuff.
And he had lived all that stuff. On the DVD, there's at the end, there's just a bunch of outtakes, and it is just gut busting funny.
I never saw all the bloopers.
You got to check it out.
Yeah, I might have to try and find that. Yeah, try and look those up. That'd be all right. But
they still sell DVDs.
I met him when I was announcing for the Indians. He was the only one down there in the dugout to give me some of the pronunciations on the first day or the first game of the series, and so I had to interrupt him and ask him, and he was sure, Mark, and got to talk to him for a few minutes, but that was awesome. Back in probably 95 or 96.
Ooh, the lean years.
Yeah,
and there have been many.
Yes.
But that was another part of what made him so great, is that, it wasn't always like it's been for the last 10 years or so, where the Brewers were competitive more often than not and winning the division. They have rolled some terrible teams out there during the 90s. But the part of the fun of listening to a Euchre broadcast was he had been in the game for so long, in so many capacities, as a player, as a scout and an office worker, as the announcer, as a national face of the game on Monday Night Baseball and Mr. Baseball. That he had so many stories from so many people that he'd been around, and so many greats of the game that he rubbed up against. And hey, when you're down 9-2 with 2 away in the bottom of the 8th, and it's looking increasingly like it's not going to happen today, that's when he can turn it on. He'll have the guy in the booth next to him rolling and unable to actually speak on the microphone because he's going into some story that happened on a bus ride in the minors in the middle of South Dakota in 1953, kind of thing. And that was really what made listening to him so much fun, was that kind of connection to the game. And he just it was everything was 6 degrees of Bob Uecker because he knew everybody and was connected to everybody. Hearing those kinds of stories is something I think we're all going to miss.
Yeah, and you're gonna. I mean, he's got so many one-liners, and you guys are probably too young, but back in the day, it was like must be in the front row.
Yeah, yeah, the old Miller Lite commercials. Yeah,
the old Miller Lite. Yep.
Yeah,
I hope I was going to say something about the Miller Lite commercials. I hope they play some of them at the game.
Right.
Just to remind people how comical he was. Like one game, they didn't even say it was him. He said he was who did he say he was in the commercial? When no one knew who he was, so he said he was someone else.
He did so many goofy things like that, and there's the shag and fly balls in the outfield with the tuba and holding hands with Bob Gibson in the front row of the team picture, and they didn't catch it until the team picture came out. The baseball card picture where he's standing there and he's just grinning to beat the band. He's got a smile on his face from ear to ear at the camera, and you realize that he's batting left-handed on a baseball card, and he's a right-handed batter, and he knew he was jerking the chain of the guy that was taking the picture that day. So many of those kinds of things that and stories from his acting days and that day.
I also I liked how he brought people up to the booth in the middle of the game, like the pitchers that were like probably going to make Cooperstown or whatever. He brought them up during the game, the visitors, to let them come up and do like a half inning with them during the game. I thought that was pretty neat whenever he started doing that.
Yeah. I don't know how you could turn down an invitation from Bob Uecker to come up in the booth for anything.
There's a great clip on Reels, like I see that, or on YouTube. When he used to join Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show. There was some great stuff, great stories. It was, just funny.
He appeared on the Johnny Carson show more than just about any other guest.
That's where he got Mr. Baseball, right?
First time on from the first. Yeah, that's where he got the nickname Mr. Baseball was from Johnny. But from if you ever watch his very first appearance on the Johnny Carson show, and he comes in and just deadpans the entire thing, and he's got the people around him just roaring, and they can't believe it because he never let on the whole time that he's joking. I mean, you could tell he's joking, obviously, but he never let on the whole time. He played the character straight the whole time through. And from then on, it was a match made in heaven between him and Carson. But just that, like you said, the wit, the quick wit in the moment, those kinds of things that it's rare. It's rare to have. It's rare for an on-air talent to have that kind of talent. And we were lucky to have him for as long as we did. And it's definitely going to be a different atmosphere around the park. For players weekend last year where they get to put their own names on the jerseys and design their cleats and do all that. Christian Yelich had actually designed bats that had a logo with Uecker's face on it because he was so close to Bob. And then of course he had to have the surgery and he didn't get to play over players weekend. So he's already announced that those bats will make an appearance on the field at some point this season to honor his friend that he lost. Cause that's the other part of it that I think about too, is that he was such a ubiquitous part of ballpark life in Milwaukee that, these people, these guys, they didn't just lose an icon that we all look up to, or a favorite singer or favorite actor or whatever. They lost a friend, they lost a colleague, they lost somebody that they literally spent all day with at the park for a long time. And, I wonder how that might affect some things. I mean, we all lose people, and we all have to deal with that, and life has to go on. But it'll be interesting to see how it changes things with the franchise and with the day-to-day goings on at the park.
I am not sure where. I think Rich wrote the "Be Right Back" on the comments. I wasn't sure. I was like, who's gonna be right back? And then I saw Rich just appeared.
He had to go wheel and get some bolognese.
Bolognese. He's on his way.
Oh man. Are there any like unexpected signings? Any free agents that you'd like to see signed still that are still sitting there? There's a lot of decent ones still sitting out there. Or do you think teams are just waiting?
I don't know how, unless he's being picky or has some crazy ass demands or something. I don't know how Bregman's not signed yet, to be honest. I think most of the
25 million a year he wants.
Yeah, but I mean, the way they toss money around nowadays in some of the bigger towns, I don't know why he's not signed yet. There's Boston talk with him. The Cubs fans are clamoring to get him in there. I don't know if that'll happen or not. I would like to see Bregman sign some. Detroit has been rumored. Again, I'm not pie in the sky enough to even hope for that coming to Milwaukee, even though he fits perfect with what I think they need. But he's one that I'm surprised isn't signed yet.
Speaking of Detroit, you think they were, I don't know what to make of it. They certainly caught fire at the right time last year. Are they the real deal, or was that a mirage?
I think they can be.
They did sign the 16-year-old for $3.5 million. He has the same swing as Alex Rodriguez. Same swing. It's phenomenal, actually.
Must be rough to be 16 and be good at stuff. But I think they can be. I think they can challenge again for a wild card. I don't necessarily think that they're. I mean, in my opinion, they're not top of that division yet.
Kansas City looks to be the front runner.
Yeah,
and Kansas City, another team.
I'm a Guardians fan also, and it kind of hurts me to say Kansas City.
Right, but another team that didn't rest on its laurels and went out and tried to make some additions and plug whatever holes they felt they had. But the Tigers did the same thing and bringing in Jack Flaherty. So now having Skubal and Flaherty at the top of the rotation, that's a nice 1-2 punch.
Boyd, didn't they get Boyd?
Who?
Did they get Boyd?
No, Boyd went to the Cubs, and I like him. I'd like him a lot better if he wasn't an all-darn Cub. But I liked Matthew Boyd for what he gave you guys when he finally came in last year. He was pretty damn good, and then he looked all right in the playoffs too. And I actually have him as one of my sleeper guys in fantasy here. I said he's a guy that is basically free in fantasy drafts right now that I think could have a real nice season for them. And I think that a lot of people are literally sleeping on him because if he pitches anywhere near like what you guys got out of him for 7-8 starts last season, he's going to be something. He's got to put a full season in, and he hasn't done that in 5 years.
Yeah.
But now that he's past the injury and healthy, hopefully coming into the season, I do like him. But no, he went to the Cubs.
What was it? 14 million?
Holy hell, Mark! I just got your picture you sent me. Holy cow! Oh shit! Jesus,
that was one of the. Yeah, that was from Bologna.
It looks delicious.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. I think the Boyd signing it's 1 year, 14 guaranteed, and then I think there's a mutual option, I believe, or something like that for a second year. So there is or maybe it was a short 2-year contract, or it's a short 1 or 2 year deal. But yeah, I think it's like 14 for this year.
Right.
But yeah, I like him. That's again, the Cubs were aggressive, went out, tried to fill some holes. But yeah, with Skubal and Flaherty at the top, they've got Alex Cobb, who's going to be in that rotation as well, who, if he can pitch to what we've seen from him in the past, will be pretty good. They've got Gleyber Torres playing second now. I don't know if I'm necessarily as excited about that, but I don't see any reason they can't still keep challenging for the playoffs. I don't think
Are they excited about Jackson Jabba?
We'll see.
They're predicting right now. He's predicted number 5 starter.
Yeah, well, you got to wait and see him do it. That's the whole key to the whole thing. So
I like Riley Green a lot.
Yeah, he's a nice little player. I'm 5'5". I can't call anybody little. I mean, I can, but
we're allowed. Oh man!
I mean, they were 86 and 76 last season, like you said. They got hot enough. They snuck it in there, but yeah, I mean, I think that same kind of record is on the table this season. That it's another division though where I don't think anybody's going to run away and hide with it. I think both central divisions. I don't think anybody runs away and hides. I think they're both going to be shootouts this season, and I think they're both going to be, they're not going to have the 100-win juggernaut team isn't going to come out of the Central.
Yeah.
But
I
again,
think the
you
Royals
could see
could. I think the
multiple
Royals
playoff
could get
teams.
96
Oh yeah.
with this team. They made some nice additions. I think they could be a 96 team winner, but their pitching's questionable. So
Yeah, I mean, when Michael Lorenzen is your 4,
I'm
or
picking the
even
White
better, when
Sox.
Michael Waka is your 3.
I'm picking the White Sox to win the Central.
There you go.
I
Put
like
some
it.
money on it. You can't go
Going out
wrong
on a
if you
limb.
got the money to blow.
Might as well put money on the
Going out on a
Marlins
limb
too.
here.
Yeah.
Hey, all those trades, those prospects got to be ready to go, right? I mean, I looked
Someday,
at
maybe
I
not for
looked at
them,
the-
but someday.
I looked at the Marlins lineup and I was like, who is who on this shit?
Yeah.
Like I told you, Adam, they're gonna be a team that is no questions asked the youngest team in baseball. They don't have a guy that's 30 years old on their roster. But it's just a matter of, is this a AAA team playing in Miami that needs time to develop, or are these guys ready for prime time? My bet is the prior, not the latter, but we'll see. And they're in a dog of a division, man.
Yes,
When
they
you're
are.
looking, you got Philly and the Mets and the Braves all in the same. No, man, that division. Whew.
Can't leave out the Nationals.
I mean, you can actually probably.
I'm
The
sorry.
Nationals leave themselves out every year.
Is Seabrey is Abrams the only one worth picking up on that Washington team?
I don't know that he's.
You
I
mean
don't know
for
that he's the
fantasy?
only one.
Yeah, that's what. Might as well ask. We got a fantasy guru right here.
I don't know that. I don't know that he's the only one on the team that's worth it. I'm definitely not excited about taking a whole heck of a lot out of that lineup, though. I mean, Keibert Ruiz is a guy. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as much garbage as I give him, and I saw him play for quite a while here in Texas. Nathaniel Lowe can hit.
Yes.
If you're in a league that you need average and some home runs, he'll hit you 280, 285, 290, and probably stroke you about 20, 25 bombs. And you can probably get him super cheap. Maybe even get him off the beaten path. He may not even be a normal number.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that, I mean, across categories, he can give you solid enough numbers where if you want to wait and not spend up on first base, and if you want to wait later on, like you said, he can contribute in a couple different categories there. And the thing about it, if you're playing roto, if you're playing categories, head-to-head categories, whatever, when you're playing category type baseball, you're drafting categories anyway. You shouldn't be drafting names. You need to be drafting the categories and the stats that you're trying to pile up. And so if you wait for later on, or if you're one of those teams, if you're one of those leagues that has the first and a third and then a corner infield spot, that third kind of guy there, heck yeah, he's a guy you can get, like you said, you can get him for cheap. And if you've constructed your roster well enough by that point, which you should have anyway, you can use him to just target those categories, and now you can take off.
Well, and see, there's another guy, Adam and I were talking about this last week on our show, that when I was looking at it on ESPN, I'm going, how in the hell is this guy 254 or whatever he was? Is Josh Young.
Yeah.
I mean, you sit there and you're going, I literally have Josh Young as my third baseman on every team I have drafted so far. I've done about 8 drafts, and I got him next to the last round, whatever, on ESPN stuff, because he's ranked that low, and he's going to have a good year. He's going to hit 270 and hit 20, 25 bombs and drive in 80 or 100.
Yeah. And yeah, but nobody, he's post hype. He's past the hype that he had a couple seasons ago. So people want to forget about him. They don't want to believe that he can be any good. And you didn't draft him to be Jose Ramirez. You drafted him to give you help in the categories that you wanted from him. And that's exactly it. You have to roll somebody out there at third base. Well, if you've stacked yourself elsewhere, you can afford to take the hit. And there's,
All right,
that's
Mark,
the key to
what was some of your
constructing one of
best
those
food?
anyway.
I gotta know after looking at all this. What was some of the best stuff you ate?
What's that?
You just sent me like 4 pictures of all this pizza, and I'm like, what the hell? One looks like a margarita pizza. The other one, some kind of, I want to say it's a Sicilian, but it's not a Sicilian.
Hey, I couldn't understand a damn thing they were saying over there. You ask a question, I don't know what the hell it is. It tasted good. You can't read the sign that was on the pizza, could you? You'll have to translate it. But we just had the margarita pizza at the restaurant. The last
we make a margarita pizza at the shop.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, it was. But the
pizza
not to get off topic,
Galoso.
huh?
Pizza Pala Galoso.
Yeah, sounds good.
Rigolone alla something. It blanked out. Yeah. Good luck on that one.
Not to get off topic,
but that looks like a square stretched pizza.
The flour over there is much different than it is over here, and so when you go there and you, it's got a different bite to it and different taste profile. But our pizza is really good here. It's just different over there, and and it's all has to do with the flour.
So what kind they use?
Well, we use the what's in there, the bromate.
Yeah, we use the bromate. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the difference. They don't have that.
Anyway, back to the conversation at hand. Mark,
this commercial brought to you by. Yeah.
Mark, do you play fantasy baseball?
I do not. I don't have time to really do a whole heck of a lot. So,
well, at least now you can.
I fire up a stogie.
At least now you can hit the buttons. Like a lot of these places all have, you can set your lineup for the week if you're going on vacation and won't have time to examine it. I think that's a really good thing for a lot of people, especially in summer.
I'll be honest with you. Right, literally 2 miles down the road is Live Casino, so they've got FanDuel over there. So I'll go down there and I'll make some wagers for the season, not just a weekly or any particular game. But like last year, I said, and I want to win some money on it. So if I want to make it worthwhile, So I bet the Pirates to win the Central last year. I'll have to see what the odds are this year, but no reason they shouldn't be in the mix.
With that top 3 in the rotation, they should be competitive every series.
I agree.
If the Pirates get any kind of hitting, any kind of hitting, they're going to be over 500. And if they're over 500, they got a shot at winning that division. I think 88, 89 wins that division.
I agree.
Question is, can we get there? I don't know. I had my opinion. I felt a lot of teams laid off signing a lot of people because of what the Dodgers did, and it's going to be tough to chase them.
Well, but we're seeing also, and it's happened with a few other guys, but we're seeing it with Bregman now, and we saw it with Pete Alonso. The
saw the Mets were trying to trade him.
They just brought him back this week. Yeah.
The teams are all telling Scott Boras to go screw himself. And Scott Boras cost Pete Alonso $100 million. The Mets' initial offer to him was 7 years, $154 million. 156. He signed 2 years, 54.
Yep.
Cost $100 million because Boras wasn't going to take it because he wanted to get, I think it was like $35 million.
Yeah, he wanted the average annual over 30. Yep.
Who's the agent for Alex Bregman? I'll give you 3 guesses. First 2 don't count. Everybody there are offers out there. There are 4 teams that have substantial offers out there for Bregman that have all been turned down for the amount, except for the Cubs offer. which is 3 years instead of 4. Bregman wants 4 years. But all of the offers have been turned down by Boris because why? It's not the money that Boris wants. Boris thinks that he runs in essence, the financial status of Major League Baseball. Ooh, yeah. And that's not not the case anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised. You were talking about, I don't think Milwaukee would be able to get Bregman. Pitchers and catchers are starting to report already. Bregman may just bite the bullet, go somewhere on a 1-year deal for, hell, I don't know, 20-25 mil. Okay, my colleague keeps squawking about the Pirates never spend any money. I do not want them spending 20 mil on Bregman. He's a piece of garbage third baseman. But he can go somewhere and make a little bit of an impact besides Pittsburgh or Texas. So, he could go to Milwaukee on a 1-year deal or whatever. But look at the money Boris is costing him. Another $100 million, another 80 to 100 million bucks. And that happened last year too. There was a couple of guys, Jordan Montgomery.
Yes.
And then he missed 80% of spring training, came out and pitched like hammered garbage.
Yep.
That was not the Jordan Montgomery that helped get the Rangers to a World Series the year before. Not even close. So a lot of these free agents that are still out there,
there's a lot. There is a lot.
But don't be surprised if there's teams that come out of nowhere and they throw an offer out there and it gets taken. See Milwaukee maybe making an offer to Bregman to fill that third base hole or second base hole. His natural position is second.
Why wouldn't like Brendan Rodgers? Why no one going after him? He's cheap.
Yeah, and from the Rockies.
Yeah, Chase, you said you would need a second baseman, right?
Well, they need one more infielder somewhere between second, short, and third. They need one more dude because I'm not convinced necessarily. I mean, it'd be great if Caleb Durbin, the guy that they got back, the one guy, he was kind of the main piece basically they got back in the Devin Williams trade because he was the young guy of the two. Nestor Cortez is not necessarily anybody's idea of a centerpiece in a trade. If Durbin does develop into a good little everyday, major league player, great. He's got a ton of speed. He runs like the wind, even though he's 5'6". But I'd feel a lot better about things if I knew we had an established bat rather than a guy that we're hoping can get on base enough to use his speed. And that was one area where the Brewers lagged last season. I mean, they were top 10, they were top 8 in most of the offensive categories last season. Even, as they, shuffled guys around and that, they were 16th in home runs. And that's not necessarily a place where the Brewers have been, used to hanging out, is down there in the bottom half of the league in home runs. And like I said, with third base and first base being two traditional power sources, there's a severe lack of power on the Brewers roster at those two positions right now.
What about a guy like Whit Merrifield? I mean, yeah, he's 36. You may need to just sign him on a 1-year deal.
I was just going to say, like 3 years ago, I was wishing they would bring in Whit Merrifield.
But I mean, if you brought him in to play second, have Terang at short,
and then
move one of your other guys over to third.
Yep, leave Ortiz at third where he played last season and played well. Yeah.
But there's guys. Yeah, there's guys out there.
Mark, would you like to see the guards go after anyone else?
What's that?
Would you like to see the guards go after any of these free agents still sitting there?
Yeah, I don't know anybody in particular, but I'd have an open mind looking at that starting rotation. I can tell you,
there's a lot of pitchers on this not signed yet. Kind of surprised me, actually. I mean,
yeah, pitching wise,
the problem with most of them, though, Adam, is that they're old. Most of them are 34 plus. that are still on the free agent list. There is one guy on here though that I'm not really sure how nobody's picked him up yet. He had a year last year, but still, Chris Flexen is not a horrible pitcher. He's 30.
Pavetta's still sitting out there too, Rich.
Yeah. Well, I've never been a big Pavetta guy. But, you've got some guys out there. Jose Urania, who pitched a little bit with Texas last year. He can either start or go long relief. You guys were talking about the Tigers. Didn't Spencer Turnbull come from the Tigers?
Yeah. I think so.
He's only 32. But the next question is, I guess, Mark, are any of those guys better than what you've got?
I don't know. Is Clevenger worth taking a flyer on?
Does he want to come back to Cleveland?
I don't know. Well, he's still out there.
I guess it's the case of the devil you know versus the devil you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
We get
Jose Ugarte. He's probably the youngest free agent pitcher out there, right? I think it's 28.
Who's that?
Urquidy, the ex-Houston pitcher.
Urquidy.
Oh, Urquidy.
Jose Urquidy.
Yeah.
I butchered that one.
If you can keep him off the operating table, yeah, you might have something.
You were just talking about age. That's all I was looking at.
See, I'll tell you what, there's a guy I see that's hanging out there, a reliever that I would love to see put in black and gold. And Hector Neris. We talked about that getting you to the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what Neris did extremely well in Houston for a lot of years.
That's your bridge that's your bridge from your 6th or 7th inning until you nail down your last guy. Yep.
Are pitchers required to go 6 this year? Is that a rule?
No, but it's just the hope.
They were talking about instituting.
I wasn't sure what happened. I lost track of the rules.
They were talking about instituting that. I don't know how they can do that. It's 27
I don't think you can be
in the 3rd inning because the starter has to go 6 innings.
I understand the changes they made with relief pitchers and swapping those guys in and out because you had guys that would make changes every 3 pitches if they could. But for a starter going 6 innings, there is a big difference between going 6 innings and throwing 70 some pitches in 6 innings and throwing 112 or 115 pitches. And the Brewers have Freddie Peralta is the king of having 100 pitches racked up by the time he's halfway through the 5th. There's a big difference health-wise and safety-wise between forcing a dude to stay out there when he's throwing that many pitches. And I'm sure that they would have some kind of mercy rule settings to that, but that's one area where it ain't broke. Don't fix it. You don't force a team to keep a guy in there that long. But
I may be get off my lawn guy on this one, but think about even 30 years ago, okay? Maddox, Glavine, Clemens, Schilling, Draybeck, all these guys throwing 125, 130 pitches every stinking time they came through on 4 days rest. How many arm surgeries are we talking about?
Not many.
You didn't have that. There were 3 Tommy John surgeries in the entire decade of the 90s. And John Smoltz was one of them, who just happened to turn it into a Hall of Fame career when he went from being a starter to a reliever. So saying that, I don't understand where everybody's thing is with this magic number of 100 pitches. Oh, my God, we got to get him out of there with 100 pitches. Let them go. Let them pitch. They know their body better than you do. I still say it's the teaching of the curveball teaching the breaking ball, but particularly the curveball way too young is the root of the issue. Nobody wants to hear me talking about this, but it's the God's honest truth. The root of this does not come from high school pitching, does not come from college pitching. It comes from these travel teams and all that kind of stuff where the kids never get a chance to rest their arm. They're taught to throw pitches and to torque their arms in ways that they're not meant to be before they have finished their growth spurts and finished their growing and developing of their arms. And then you wonder why you got 12 and 13-year-old kids having Tommy John surgery. And you've got pitchers all over high school, college, the minors, and the pros having Tommy John surgery. There, if I remember right, there were, I think I saw the number was 27 MLB pitchers last year went down with Tommy John surgery.
And some of them for the second time.
Yeah. There weren't 27 in a 10-year period of the 90s.
That's because we were warriors then. We knew how to play the game, and
but you weren't play. You played baseball, then you did something else. Football, soccer, basketball, whatever the heck you were doing, you did something else.
There definitely wasn't the specialization. There wasn't the young specialization that there is now.
Right. And you gave your arm a chance to rest. You gave your legs a chance to rest a little bit, doing something different. Yeah, I mean, shooting a basketball, completely different motion. Throwing a football, okay, that's a similar motion, but how many quarterbacks are there? Let's be honest. It's just a matter of, I think the way that they're, and you brought up the perfect word, Chase, specializing has caused a lot of this issue. And until and unless something happens with that, we're going to see this get worse and worse and worse and worse.
Well, and I don't necessarily know if it's a chicken or I haven't looked into it enough, studied enough, whatever you want to call it, to know if it's a chicken or egg sort of situation. But I mean, a dude throwing 100 miles an hour used to be a rare freaking unicorn. You'd hear, if you heard that a dude threw 100 miles an hour, 99, 98, people were like, that's something. And we hear legends of Walter Johnson, and things like the guys that could throw that hard earlier. And there has become such an emphasis in the last 20, 30 years, I'll say, on that throwing hard and throwing hard and throwing hard and throwing hard and throwing hard. And everybody wants to be able to have that 98 mile an hour, just, without even rearing back necessarily. And everybody's throwing. How many dudes out there in the league today right now pitch like Greg Maddux pitched? No. Greg Maddux didn't have to throw 99 miles an hour because he could put the ball wherever he wanted to, whenever he wanted to. And he knew that you had no idea what was coming and where it was going to be. There isn't necessarily, in my opinion, I'm not a league insider or anything like that right now, but it seems there's much more of an emphasis been placed on that throwing hard. And everybody wants that flamethrower, that fireballer. That's a lot of stress on a body. It's a lot of stress on an arm. And throwing 100 pitches, trying to throw 98, 99, 100 miles an hour is a lot different than pitching 100, 115 pitches and trying to go for the placement. And like you said, not necessarily trying to, throw a ghost fork or a slurve or anything. Yeah. All this other stuff that where the arm angles are tweaking and everything. I don't know that you can force a team to keep a guy out there though, based on some arbitrary number of innings. I mean, and we're already taking strategy away from the game in other places.
Hold up.
Do we need to take that strategy away?
Mark, how long you got, buddy? I know you just text me.
Yeah, I'm ready I got to get rolling, but enjoy the time with you guys. Appreciate it, and looking forward to getting some warmer weather and some baseball going.
Heck yeah,
absolutely.
There you go.
But let me know if you want to go to that one of those weekend games.
Yeah, I can't believe they're doing it that early.
Yeah, I mean neither, because we start. The Yankees are here right off the bat.
Makes no sense.
No, I figured you would have saved that game for when no one goes to the game in like July. I didn't think you would, like me and Rich got into this conversation. Like, you do not put these powerhouse teams to come to games that are already going to be sold out because it's opening weekend.
I think
I think they do this when they're making the schedule out.
I didn't understand why they did it. I was so just
when I was at the Indians, the only time the Mariners came into Cleveland was the first week of the season, and it was like 3 inches of snow. So it was like they're in a dome. At the time they were in a dome.
Right. Why is you
playing in Cleveland on April 3rd or whatever it was? It's like, why? Who's making these decisions?
Not very smart ones.
Yeah.
Well, Mark,
thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
How can people get you anywhere, or are you off social media lately?
Let's see no, I'm on Twitter or X. It is at Indians PA 95. Or you could find me in the cigar lounge.
Nice. Well, Mark, I thank you for coming on. We'll definitely chat again soon. I know John messaged me and he's like, "When's Mark available?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I got to talk to him."
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I know
he's just hit and miss in and out of town, but appreciate the invites.
Yes, sir.
Right,
I thank you for coming on, buddy. We'll talk.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
All righty.
Pleasure. But yeah, Chase,
I know you said you're doing a show. How long do you got left?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut out here pretty quick here, just a few minutes here, because like I said, I got to tape an episode of mine here before.
That's what I meant. I was just curious. I was like, wow, Chase gave me till 10:30. I'm excited right now.
Well, my little guys are in bed already, so I don't have to worry about that.
I know you and Rich are in the same time zone.
Well,
yeah, Rich is in Texas, just to let you know.
Yeah, I'm in Waco, Texas.
Well, there you go.
But you were talking about, the 100-mile-an-hour stuff and things like that. A lot of that is mechanics too, because Nolan Ryan threw 100-mile-an-hour his whole career, and it was all mechanics.
It was all legs and
Randy
mechanics.
Johnson.
Yes.
Randy Johnson was mechanics. Kurt Schilling was mechanics. J.R. Richard was mechanics. These guys, Frank Tanana was mechanics. And I think that's another part of it is it all comes down to, and I realize, any of you younger folks that are listening to this, you're going to hate this word, but it comes down to fundamentals. It comes down to the basic nuts and bolts of the game. And you have to build off of those fundamentals. The mechanics of pitching properly, the mechanics of whatever position you're playing. It's not just for pitchers. Catchers have the same situation. First basemen have the same situation. You've got to have those mechanics, and you never had Nolan Ryan going down with arm surgery. You never had Schilling or Randy Johnson or Clemens or any of those guys going down with arm surgery because they had the right mechanics.
Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens threw with their legs. They didn't throw with their arms. If you look at Nolan Ryan's legs, his legs are about this big around on his baseball card. Go back and grab a baseball card, kids, or Google image search it. Nolan Ryan from the waist down was built like an absolute tank. And that's how he threw the ball. And that's how he got that speed, because the hips, the thighs, that's where your power comes from in any, spoiler alert, kids, hockey, volleyball, baseball, football, doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. That's where your power comes from. And those guys threw, like you just said, with their legs. There's a reason that you don't see guys with pitching motions like Tim Lincecum and Hideki Nomo being able to throw for 25, 30 seasons like you used to see guys throw.
Or throwing 7 innings in a game.
Right.
I'll give you, perfect example. Watch Paul Skeens pitch.
Yeah.
Where does Skeens throw from? The legs. He comes from the legs, which is why his stamina is better than most people's. there aren't very many guys in baseball right now that have the proper mechanics. There really aren't, but Paul Skeens, one of the youngest guys in the game, does. Lance Lynn. You ever watch Lance Lynn pitch? Straight from the legs.
Mm-hmm.
He has perfect balance. He comes straight from the legs, and he can pitch till there's no tomorrow. He may end up giving up 6 or 7 runs in 7 innings, but by God, he'll eat innings for you, and he can throw 110, 115 pitches a night because he does it mechanically sound.
Mechanically sound and fundamentally sound, and simpler is better because simpler is repeatable, and repeatability leads to consistency. And that consistency is when you get that muscle memory. It's when your body takes over rather than having to think about it all the time. If every pitch you have to try and balance and perch on one leg like a flamingo for 73% of the time that you're in your delivery, your body doesn't want to be able to do that. That's not a natural thing for a body to do. Throwing is not unnatural, but some of these pitching motions sure as heck are. And yeah, so I
have
it'd be interesting to see
that.
It'd be interesting to see what leads to all of these. Go ahead.
Does anyone know what John Rocker and Patrick Mahomes Sr. were fighting over?
No, I haven't seen that. When was that?
Barstool Sports just tweeted out about 4 hours ago.
Really?
Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker got into it, NOLA, after I guess it was after the game or something. Like they had to hold each other. They had to hold them all back.
Oh, Rocker had put out some tweets, basically not very kind about Kermit, and he had put stuff out there. Let's see. There's some quotes here from Athlon Sports. Video emerged on social media showing the two, blah, blah, blah. Rocker appeared to approach Mahomes Sr. to strike up a conversation.
It looked like Mahomes Sr. called him over, though. It looks like Mahomes Sr. called him over.
Said it didn't take long for Rocker to take to social media. He said, "This expletive loser can't take a damn joke. Wish I'd laid him out right there and ruined his expletive weekend even more."
Yeah, it turned into a John
Rocker tweeted on January 26th, Patrick Mahomes' expletive sucks. Let's see. This is all from Athlon Sports. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals as long, and a lot of people are like that now. Everything's great as long as it's going great. Then they get butthurt.
AB said they should go into a boxing ring.
Yeah, I mean, they're okay. So Mahomes played like crap. He's gonna have a bad game, guys.
He wasn't the only one. How about the Eagles just played a hell of a dang good game too? Eagles played well.
I don't
know anybody
who's
beating them that night.
My son-in-law and my wife were in the kitchen cooking when the game was getting ready to start. And my son-in-law said, "The Chiefs are winning this game. There is no way Philadelphia can beat the Chiefs." I said, "I promise you, if they get pressure on Mahomes and force turnovers, they will win this game big." Sure as we're all sitting here, what did the Eagles defense do? Mahomes couldn't turn around without seeing a green jersey, and they pick him off twice, and he fumbles once. So, it was the Eagles defense played fantastic. Mahomes did not play as well as he usually does. The only reason they got 22 points is because the Eagles dumped the bench with about 8 minutes left in the game. And that
was a pretty pass, though.
There was some beautiful. Yeah, he made some beautiful passes there at the end.
That pass to Worthy doesn't happen if Gardner Johnson's back there or somebody like that.
That's another great point. But I mean, Fangio had a great game plan. The Eagles came in with a great game plan defensively. They executed offensively. The Chiefs took away their best weapon. Chiefs took away Saquon Barkley. He was not a major factor in that game in the way we thought he would. Now, he still ended up, I think he had 6-7 catches for 50, 60 yards too. I mean,
they shut it down this run. They shut down
he was not finding those holes. Yeah,
Hurts was fantastic.
But yes, Hurts played so well. Fangio and the defensive game plan were perfect. They executed and they did what they wanted to do. They forced the Chiefs into what they wanted the Chiefs to do. I mean, the Eagles were the better team. They were the more talented team going into that game, I said.
Well, they were the home team too.
Chiefs have been the best organization in football for several years now.
Mhm.
Nobody can argue that in terms of how they've conducted. I mean, they've been successful.
Right.
But the talent on the field was with the Eagles, top to bottom, going into that game. It was just the Chiefs have been there so often, and they have such a history of making the plays when it counts and not losing their head and not falling behind like that. It was a shocker the way it played out. I wasn't shocked that the Eagles won. I was shocked by how they won, how much they won by. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, surprised he's human. I still think that there's probably 28 other teams in the league that would rather have him on the field than what they got.
Mhm.
That's my son, by the way, Chase.
Well, all I can tell you is this. The Chiefs have arguably top 5 coach of all time.
Yes.
Safe to say. Former Eagles coach, by the way.
Yep.
Arguably, and I'll throw this out there, arguably a top 10 defensive coordinator of all
Yes.
time in Steve Spagnuolo. But if you saw, and I don't know if you guys saw this or not, Chris Jones got hurt early.
Yeah.
He screwed up his neck.
The knee brace came off.
Yeah, but he screwed up. He pinched a nerve in his neck.
They were showing that after one of the tush
head.
pushes. After one of the tush pushes, they
Yeah.
were working his neck on the sideline. Yeah.
He
I
could
didn't
barely
see the
turn his
neck.
head the
How
entire
was it working?
last 3 quarters. The last 3 quarters, dude couldn't turn his head. So I'm sure that had, because Chris Jones is a phenomenal defensive player. He wasn't himself either. I'm not making excuses for the Chiefs. I picked Philly. I had Philly going, as soon as they made it to the Super Bowl, I had them winning the thing.
Well, Kenny Pickett has more time on the field in the Super Bowl than Dak Prescott.
Oh, God. Here we go. Yes, I understand.
And
Hey,
you let him
I'm
go.
not a Cowboy fan, but
You got rid of him. You got rid of Kenny Pickett. Super Bowl winning
We
quarterback.
got rid of Russell Wilson, too.
Who is going to play quarterback for them next year?
Aaron Rodgers. I saw that was
better
thrown
hope
out there
not.
today. I
Oh,
was
no.
laughing.
You
I
better
saw
hope
that.
That's
I would not be mad, Chase. I would not be mad, and I told Adam this the other day. I would not be mad if it was Justin Fields and Kirk Cousins. Would not be mad. Would not be mad at that at all. But the biggest thing that they've got to do, that the Steelers have to do,
Take the clipboard away
is
from Arthur
figure
Smith.
out a way, huh?
Take the clipboard away from Arthur Smith. I'm not an Arthur
No,
Smith
they
fan.
they
I'm
got to
just not.
figure out a way to get rid of Pickens and get 2 receivers in there. I don't care if it's free agency, getting T. Higgins or Deebo Samuel or who the hell it is. Don't care. They've got to
that,
have
Deebo.
a 1 and a 2 because this year, all season long, they had a 1 and a 4.
Yes. Yes.
As much as I can appreciate Calvin Austin, I
Yep.
know that's Adam's guy. He's a 4 at best.
He's not a top 2. He's not a top 2 wideout. No.
I like
Not a two.
Calvin.
If you have a 1 and a 2 wide out and Pat Freiermuth is your third option, I'm good. But when you got George Pickens, who you don't know if he's playing or not, and I read something the other day, a guy here in Texas, up in Dallas, he said, well, we got to there's a couple of unhappy receivers. Why don't they just make the deal and send CeeDee Lamb to Pittsburgh for Pickens? Go ahead.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Come on.
Steelers would block that just because it's the Steelers. Chase, do you think T. Higgins is going to Green Bay?
I would love it if he did. I don't think he will, but They actually have.
They
They
do.
actually do have some cap space to be able to use on it right now. So I mean, it's never necessarily been their style to do that, to bring in the big
Well,
name, big gun offensive weapon like that.
Christian Watson just walks and he tears his ACL.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. I mean, they've got a talented and deep receiver core. The problem is kind of like you were just talking about, Rich. Their receiving core starts at twos and goes down from there. They don't have that number one guy. They've got a lot of Romeo Doubs is a talented receiver, very good receiver. If he was a number two on your team, you'd be happy as a clam.
He's got a handful of twos.
Well, where do you put Jaden Reed?
Jaden Reed is a fun player too, and he's very good. He's not a number one.
Christian Watson. That's why they go quiet, Chase, because they have so many twos.
Was that?
You think that's why these receivers on Green Bay go quiet, because you guys have a bunch of twos?
Green Bay was a fantasy herd coming into the season. I said coming into the season that I didn't want in fantasy now, but you can see, if you know football, you could see how this translates to what we see on the field or what we saw on the field.
Like I have three of the red wide receivers, and
they were a fantasy herd. I didn't want any of Green Bay's pass catchers coming into the season. I said I wanted Jordan Love, maybe. I didn't have him ranked in my top 5, but I said I wanted Jordan Love, but I didn't necessarily want anybody he was throwing to, because the only thing you did know was that Jordan Love was going to throw the ball. You didn't necessarily know who was going to catch it from week to week, and that played out. They had something like 6 different guys were their leading receiver this season, going game to game to game, and some of that variation is okay, but when 4 or 5 different dudes, wide receivers, who are all playing at the same time, any given week, one of those guys can be your leading receiver, or your tight end, or your second tight end if and when he's healthy, or your running back. It's nice to have that embarrassment of riches at offense, but you need that alpha guy that other teams have to game plan around. You need that alpha guy who is going to take the alpha coverage from the other team to free things up for the other guys who are talented on that team. They've got a ton of young talent.
Would be huge.
But bringing somebody in like Higgins would be awesome.
But that's where in the NFL, you really only have about 20 true number one receivers.
Yeah.
If you sit there and really honest to God look at it, you really only have, Buffalo does not have a true number one.
No, they didn't have a number 2 all season.
Miami has Tyreek Hill for the moment. New England does not have a true number one. Is Devontae Adams still a number one? Yeah, I guess so.
In the right environment, but the Jets is not the right environment.
Besides New England having Randy Moss, who has been their number one.
Right. No, you're right.
That's been a problem. That's been a major problem.
Does Baltimore have
Tom Brady made one? Troy Brown. Brady also.
Troy Brown wouldn't have been a number one receiver anywhere else in the league.
No.
But he got him an MVP. Troy Brown's an MVP in the Super Bowl.
Well, so are a bunch of other people that never did anything else in their whole careers. So that's not saying a whole lot. But, when you look at the AFC North, there's only one number one receiver in the whole division. That's Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy when you look at the fact of how many number ones there's not in the NFL, particularly in the AFC. Is Nico Collins is a 1. Colts don't have a 1. Jags don't have a 1. Tennessee doesn't have a real 1. Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers. You got a whole conference with 6 number one receivers. There's more in the NFC, of course, because you're talking about guys like Malik Neighbors and AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb and
Jefferson,
Debo
Did
Samuel,
anyone see
Justin
Neighbors
Jefferson.
Say he wanted? Anyone see Neighbors said he wanted Ward over Shador?
Yeah.
Did he say that?
I would too.
Said it this week.
I
He
would
said
too.
it, I guess on a radio show during Super Bowl. I guess during radio street,
Radio
whatever they
Row.
call it.
Kid's got to
Yeah,
learn not to
Radio
open his
Row.
mouth quite so loud when he's on the radio, because you have no idea who's going to be throwing to you next year, and you don't get to make those decisions for the front office yet, kid.
Yeah, why not let the
I mean, I don't
Giants
necessarily disagree with him, but
let the owner's kid run the team? He would have had Jaden Daniels. He would. Anyway, Chase, I know you got to do catchers. So how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah.
well, you can find me anywhere I've got social media. You can find me at STT Chase FFB down there, like it says on my avatar there. Like I said, we just launched the Fantasy Baseball Advice Network over at the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. That's where you can find all my content. You can find my articles over there. You'll find my podcast. You can also find my podcast, Straight to the Chase, all fantasy baseball all the time. You can find that anywhere you get your podcasts. Just search Straight to the Chase. But yeah, get over to fantasybaseballadvice.com and sign yourself up for a membership. You can find all my content over there. You'll have access to our fantasy sports only social media platform. You can curate your feed to follow baseball, football, basketball, whatever you want there, but only whatever you want. You can friend me on there. You can friend other fantasy sports fans, fantasy sports content providers. You can ask me questions on there, interact with me on there. It's great. You can download the app and be connected on the go all the time. So Fantasy Baseball Advice Network. Get over there. Also, you can find me not for the next month because we're off, but you can also find me Wednesday nights on the Fantasy Football Advice Network and Operation Domination. Myself, Dan Mader, Adam LaRue, Chris Dowhauer. We preview the week to come and talk about the week that was every single week, Wednesday nights there. So
you get a week off of football, huh?
Yeah, I get a couple weeks off, and then end of the month here, we're going to go to Disney. We're going to take the little guys to Disneyland, I think. Like whichever one, I don't know.
Are you going to
Disney
Florida or are
World,
you going to
whichever one is in
California?
California, that's the one we're going to.
You going to Disneyland?
Yeah. So,
Dude,
but
they
yeah,
say
that's
they
what
say the cars. They say the cars out there, the whatever they do for the Pixar.
yeah,
that's a good one for the kids.
that's why that's one of the reasons we're going. Is my 5-year-old's big cars nut. In fact, we just did the Pinewood Derby for scouts this past Sunday, and his little Pinewood Derby car looked like Lightning McQueen. So,
Did he win?
Nice.
yeah, he did bring home a trophy. He got second place in his division.
Sweet.
Very good.
Sweet.
All right.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
yep.
You'll have to send me that link so I can hear about these catchers. Because we just renewed our Yahoo League.
Yeah. No, I'll send it to you. Like I said, Fantasy Baseball Advice Network, get over there. You find all my stuff over there. And like I said, then you get the access to the fantasy sports only, all the stuff you want about social media without having to deal with politics and stupidity and ads and everything else going on. It's just all fantasy.
I'm gonna ask my guy about the euchre patch too.
There you go.
So
good to be
so
on.
I will
Good to see you
definitely
again.
talk to you before I get a jersey for you.
Definitely. Hey,
All
Rich,
right.
good to meet you, friend.
Rich, how people get you, buddy?
Jason is super cool, man. Hey, you can get on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling this week, at Go Big Go Home Pod. You can catch me right here Mondays at 7 Eastern, 6 Central with Two Tire Change, our NASCAR show here on Driving to the Top Productions. We'll be talking about the Daytona 500 and all the craziness that went on there, as well as previewing the following week's race. Getting you ready for that, interviews and all that kind of good stuff. I will be getting into fantasy NASCAR as well. Let you know who to be taking on your DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever you do in terms of daily fantasy for NASCAR with that. And then on Wednesdays, the guy that's to the left of me here on this picture, we talk a little Pittsburgh sports, and then God only knows where we end up from there. We do end up all over the place. But we do that Wednesdays at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. So, hop on, check us out, and definitely appreciate what all you guys do, and appreciate everybody paying attention to the broadcast tonight.
All right, we are at Driving to the Top on YouTube. I just noticed our little thing isn't up there. I don't know. Someone monkeyed with this room. Anyway, at Sports Talking It on Twitter, X. Yeah, I know open mic was supposed to be tonight, but I wanted to talk baseball. So so I'm sure the guys are going to want to talk later on, but we'll rearrange that. Anyway, guys, I thank you for tuning on. Mark, thanks for stopping by again. You guys are all awesome. Jay got called into work. He was supposed to be here. I don't know, something about last basketball game of the season or something. He covers high school sports now, Chase.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
So yeah, he's out in California. I don't know if you're going to be close to him or not. I don't know where
closer than I am now, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know where Disneyland is to Fresno. Anyone know?
California.
I have no idea. I don't even know where Disneyland is in California. Do you?
Disneyland's south.
Los Angeles
Fresno.
area.
Yeah, Fresno's north.
I wasn't sure. I don't know California at all.
I know enough to be dangerous.
I know Interstate 5 runs coast to coast. All right. Runs the whole Pacific coast.
Pretty much,
Sorry,
yeah. Disneyland's in Anaheim, which is right outside LA, and Fresno's kind of up near like Sacramento area, that kind of thing.
Chase, you gonna try and check out any stadiums while you're there? Do any tours?
I'm actually trying to put together a plan to do a nationwide tour here in the next couple of years. So, but yeah, while we're out there, probably not.
I got 14 down. Let me know. Let me know if I can help this. I've never been to your ballpark, and you've probably never been to PNC.
No, I haven't. Cincinnati, Chicago, here.
I've been to Wrigley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just never been to Great American Ballpark. Is that what it's called still?
Yeah, who knows? They change every 3 years. It seems like. I just get used to calling a basketball arena one thing, and you find out it's a completely different company in the same industry. So who knows?
Well, everybody, it's still Heinz Field. It's still Heinz Field. It will always be Heinz Field.
I keep saying the same thing. I can't call it American Family Field. It's still Miller Park. I still think that Miller Park for the Milwaukee Brewers, he couldn't have had a more perfect corporate sponsorship partnership than that. But
same thing with Heinz. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I'm with you.
They should call it the Uke.
Yeah. There's been a little bit of a grassroots fan push for something like that too, to somehow name the field after, or somehow name the stadium or the field or something after Euchre.
You can't call it the Bob though.
They can, yeah. Well, they've already, yeah, right. Yeah, no, we've already done that in Arizona, wasn't it?
No, but like at Wrigley, it's Harry Carey Field. You know, so you could name it Bob Uecker Field, sure.
Yep. Yeah, I know a lot of places have done that kind of thing where, like, they'll say it's XYZ coach at XYZ coach court at the whatever dome, or
See, if they really wanted to be creative with it, the top row
of
the
upper
level all the way around the stadium would be the Uecker seats.
And they do have one where they call them the Euchre seats. They do have a section that they call the Euchre seats somewhere in Miller Park. I've never sat in them yet, but they do have them. And then I know that they have a statue of him sitting in one of the last row seats up in the upper deck, as well as then the statue out front that they have.
Yeah, he's sitting on a bench with his leg crossed.
Yeah. He's actually in the seating section. I think it's right field, the far right field upper deck.
I'm like Mark.
This statue takes the place of one seat, basically.
I'm like Mark. I got to meet Uke in the dugout. I met him for about a minute, but it was enough to say, "Hey, I'm Adam. How are you?" I was like, "I just got to clean this real quick," and he's like, "Oh yeah, take your time." Oh yeah, and I was like, "Cool." I'm like, "Hey, I'm Adam." I shook his hand.
Awesome.
I met him on Radio Row, Super Bowl Radio Row. I covered when the Steelers played the Packers. I got to cover Radio Row. Met my hero, Rocky Blyer, that day.
Cool.
But also, Euchre was going around doing stuff for, believe it or not, Miller Lite.
Yep.
And he was doing some things with that, and got a chance to meet him, shook hands with him, that kind of deal. Super nice guy. I'm 7 foot tall, and of course, naturally, he just kind of does this number.
Yep. Yep.
And, he wanted to hire me as his bodyguard for the rest of the day.
Great story. Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Are
Cheers,
you wearing the
sign
Robin
off.
Yount jersey? That's why I'm asking.
Oh yeah.
I got
Yount or Molitor?
I got to meet Robin
Yount
Yount.
for me. Yount was always my favorite. Molitor was basically my second favorite. Yep. Robin Yount and Gary Carter are my 2 favorite baseball players of all time. So
Gary Carter.
Mine's Willie Stargell and Ryan Sandberg, so I understand where you're going.
there you go. All right.
I like this guy.
Oh no, yeah. Hey, Mike
Maybe 'cause
Schmidt. I always liked Mike Schmidt a lot too. I liked
Maybe
him
because
a
I
lot
was
too.
at the game where he hit his 500th home run. I don't know.
I keep trying to
And
choose somebody newer to have a favorite guy now, and I just they switch teams so damned often. You can't hook on to anybody.
Seems like Bryce Harper is going to end up being a Philly, though.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to pick him. With that,
I was just saying.
I'm
I was
gonna
just
sign off.
I was just saying. All right, man. All right, everybody, have a good evening. Like I said, thanks for coming on, guys, and we will chat.